Joining us right now, General Manager Nick Caserio. Nick, congratulations on the Week 1 win. Your thoughts on the whole experience leading up to it, getting the victory on Sunday against the Jaguars?
Yeah, thanks for having me again today. Really excited for the players. They earned the victory, so happy for the players, happy for the staff, the amount of time and effort that they put into it. You're really happy for David. I think a few of the players had said it. He's a rookie head coach, but he's not a rookie head coach. He's been around football for a long time, but to see him rewarded for the efforts and his consistency from day one, and the way the team responded, really from training camp and all the way through the preseason and with the first game. So really a lot of credit to him, and he put us in a position. The staff did a great job getting the team ready to go, and the players responded. So really excited for the players and happy for the players that they were able to take advantage of the opportunity.
When you're around the league as long as you have been, Nick, I'm sure nothing really surprises you. But was there anything Sunday? I mean, it's Week 1. You had a lot of new pieces coming together. Was there anything that really surprised you about the team's performance on Sunday?
You saw it in bits and pieces. Again, we never were able to see it over a long duration in the preseasons because nobody had played an entire game.
Yep.
So how the game actually goes, it starts to unfold a little bit. And some players had to play probably more snaps than they had played all of training camp. So, but again, just to get in a real live situation, a game situation, a situation we couldn't necessarily simulate. There's some things that came up in the game. I mean, I don't think we had 21 third downs, which I would say that it is an inordinate amount of third downs offensively. But when you look at those, they were very manageable situations. So I'd say the volume of that. But the things that we talk about in terms of trying to be a least penalized team, don't turn the ball over, be good in the running game, cover kicks, we were able to do some of those things. So there were certain goals that David had established for the team. If we did these three things in each of these areas, then we'd have a chance on Sunday. And for the most part, we were able to do that. And as a result, we were able to come out on top.
Yeah, and speaking of three things, you'd love to average 3 takeaways a game. That would be really nice. And you did in the preseason. You did in Week 1. You got 3 takeaways. And that speaks to what you've been setting up here from the get-go, the foundation, Lovie Smith preaching that takeaway philosophy.
Yeah, the players have bought into it from the beginning, and you really see the fruits of the labor come to fruition. Now, are we going to have 3 turnovers every week? I mean, or 3 takeaways as Lovie looks at it. It's really more about taking the ball away than turnovers. But, again, it just gives you more opportunities offensively to have another possession. So if we can take the ball away from the other team and not give the ball to them, we'll at least give ourselves a chance. There's nothing wrong with ending a possession with a kick offensively. So either a punt or a field goal or a PAT. So if you look at it through that prism and we're able to do those things, we'll at least give ourselves a chance. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to win, but at least we'll give ourselves a chance.
During the broadcast, Marc was really, really mad at you because we do all this off-season radio content. We talk about all these different things, and we'll get in segments like who's going to be the leading rusher, who's going to be the leading receiver, who's going to do this. We get to the leading receiver, and it's like somebody we didn't even know was on the face of the planet still, and Danny Amendola. You bring him in a few days before. I'm sure, like we said, there was no surprises. But in all seriousness, having Danny come into this offense where some of the verbiage, I would imagine, is similar, and that probably helped him a little bit. But what did he bring to the offense? 5 catches on, I think, 17, 18 plays, gets the touchdown. I mean, he blew up all of our offseason radio, but we're okay with that because it was pretty important what he did.
See, it goes to show you what we guys to talk about in the offseason.
We got to start bringing up players. Well, hey, there's this guy. Nick's going to bring this guy in, so it gives us a heads up for next year.
No, really, it's a credit to Danny and Robert, Timmy, and the offensive staff. And Danny's been around football for a long time. He's very smart. He's a very smart, instinctive player, and there was some familiarity with what we're doing systematically. So the role was, I think he played 16, 17 plays, whatever it was. But he was able to contribute in a small area, and I think what you saw during the course of the game, different players were able to contribute in their own unique way and have a specific role. So all 4 running backs played. All 4 receivers played. Andre had his role in the kicking game. The offensive line was the offensive line. The defensive line we took 9 defensive linemen to the game. They all played until Vince got hurt, but everybody played. So everybody that's at the game, we tell them, look, be ready to play. You're going to have a role, and it's about the performance. We're not just going to roll a guy out there if we don't think he's capable of doing it. So in Danny's particular case, he was ready to go. He prepared himself accordingly, and I would say the people that have been around Danny probably aren't surprised at what took place on Sunday.
Can you take the listeners through the flexibility you have with the practice squad during these last couple of years, really, because you have Joey Sly on the practice squad, and you know that Kaimi is going to go on IR, and then you bring up Anthony Auclair. Brevin's down. Gives you some flexibility there to have extra bodies coming in.
It does, and that's why we talked about this a little bit towards the end. The practice squad is essentially an extension of your roster. So those players that are on the practice squad at any given point in time could go into the game or be up for a game. So they have to prepare and be ready to play, and we have to feel confident that they would be able to go in there and actually perform. You just don't want to bring a guy from the practice squad to the game just because. So as we're filling out the team and how we're going to construct it, there's a lot that goes into it. We've had a lot of discussions about it, and it's how do you get people where, how do you allocate and deploy your resources. So we just did what we feel was best, and I'd say these league rules, I would say we certainly would be in favor of moving forward because it's more opportunity for the players, and it gives teams more opportunities to use players as they see fit, because you really never know on a week-to-week basis what's going to happen or what's going to take place.
Nick, we're outside the 24-hour window finally, so it's Cleveland. First thoughts, first glance at Cleveland. Wildly talented team. Kevin Stefanski appears to be a very good football coach. What do you think about the Browns overall?
Big challenge. Really great football team. They, last season was no fluke, or it wasn't a joke, but Coach Stefanski and AB, Andrew Berry, have done a great job putting a program in place. Paul DePotessa is a part of that as well, but they have a good infrastructure in place, and they've brought a lot of good players and a lot of good people. Offensively, they have arguably two of the best backs in the league. I mean, Chubb is one of the best backs, and Hunt is probably a little bit underrated, but they can put two running backs out there at any given point in time, three good tight ends, three or four really good receivers, including, the fifth receiver is a rookie who runs 4-1 or whatever Schwartz runs. Yep. Really good offensive line that they've invested in. And Baker's a really, really good player, underrated, very accurate with the ball, mobile. And then they essentially have rebuilt their defense. They have nine new starters, but 14 new players on the defensive side of the ball, and it really starts with the defensive front. I mean, Garrett's as good a player as there's in the league. JD is a really good player. I mean, you guys saw him for a number of years. Signed McKinley, drafted JOK in the second round, drafted Newsome in the first round, signed John Johnson, who's another underrated player. So they have a really good football team, and then a lot of those guys have a role in the kicking game. The Felton, the rookie returner from UCLA, Felton, is going to return kicks. So they have a good football team. It's a big challenge, certainly, in front of us, and it's a good opportunity for us to go on the road and kind of, see where we are.
You've been on the road twice in the preseason. Now it's the regular season, and it's interesting because prior to COVID, sometimes we'd take sponsors or whatever on the road, and they were blown away. If somebody's never been on the road with an NFL team, oh, my gosh, the way this operation is handled. What can you share with us about how you put all that together and how you fine-tune that to be as comfortable as possible for the players, get maximum performance when kickoff occurs, and get them back quickly so you can get into the next week?
It's a great question, Mark. There's a lot of foresight, a lot of planning that goes into it, really going back to the spring. So we spend time having an advanced team or advanced individual that will go out and identify the hotel. So once we have the hotel in place, then you look at some of the logistics, getting from the hotel to the stadium. And in terms of the meeting space at the hotel, can we reduplicate or simulate what we do here in NRG? Because really you're trying to put the players in a position where everything is normalized. So that's what we've tried to do. But there's an immense amount of planning. There's a lot of people that are involved in that. They do a great job as part of that process. So they're an integral part of the operation. So really we're just trying to make it as easy on the players as possible. But there's definitely a lot of planning. It's not get on a plane, get on a bus, drive to the hotel, and let's go play. There's a lot of planning, a lot of foresight that goes into it.
Nick, you mentioned JOK, who is Jeremiah Usu-Koromoa. And when you said that, it triggered something that I've actually heard a guy you know well, Tom Brady, talk about this offseason, and that's the number change. He wears number 28. When he's in college, you couldn't figure out if he's a linebacker or a safety. Anthony Walker wears number 4 for them. Tom's talked about how tough that is to identify various people and what that guy's position actually is. You've never seen single digits on defensive players in the NFL. Is that really a thing? How tough is that to look over there and go, you know what, everybody over there is wearing a skill number? How tough does that make it?
No, it's absolutely relevant because it's the same thing on the other side of the ball. But when you break the huddle, you're just trying to figure out the deployment of who's where and what position are they playing. Some of it's spot related, but not to look too far ahead to Carolina, but Carter and Shaq, they literally changed their numbers right before they played the Jets. So during the preseason, they're 56 and 54. Right. So mentally, as you're preparing, you're trying to go through the mic identification and the protection. So now you just have to know, okay, Walker is number 8 or whatever number Walker is wearing. Yeah, JOK is 28. So those guys are linebackers. So when they put whatever group they're going to put on the field, how are they being categorized and how are they being treated? So the league is really a personnel-driven league. It's understanding personnel. It's understanding players. So specific to the quarterback, understanding the personnel that they have on the field, like you better know who's wearing what and who's whom, what position you're playing, because it affects how you distribute the blockers and how you set your protections, how you do a number of different things. So it's an adjustment, but everybody's going through the same thing, and you just have to plan and prepare. And just as long as you look at it the same way, so the offensive line sees it the same way as the quarterback and the running backs view it the same way, then you can go out there and execute and as if they were wearing whatever the 50s or whatever the numbers are.
The poor kickers can't even find a single digit to wear anymore. Joey's wearing number 16. He's Joe Montana.
So is Tom crying for no reason, or has he got a valid concern? No,
you guys can talk to Tom at some point. I'm not ever going to speak.
But is it valid though? I mean, it is. It's different. I mean, to do it right before the game, to do it before the first game, to go from 54 to 7 and go, wait a second, 7. I mean, you have to have a little bit of knowledge, I guess, of him, because in college you did wear 7. But like you're talking about Shaq Thompson, to do it like right before the game, ooh, boy.
As long as you get it communicated to everybody, as long as they understand who's playing what, who's wearing what.
Yeah.
Because there's number changes, or a guy gets brought up from the practice squad that's not even on the flip card, so he gets brought up on Saturday and he gets added. I mean, Jacksonville had it with Rusnak. They brought up Devin Smith. Those players play for them in the preseason, but they're not even on the flip card. So you just have to have some awareness and general understanding of who's at the game, and that's why it's part of our advanced scouting process. We do write-ups on all 53 players and including the practice squad players, because at any point, like we talked about earlier, Mark, those players are eligible to play.
Will you go on the road and watch college games in person this fall?
Sporadically, based on where the game is relative to our location. I think there's value in both ways. Seeing teams play live, I've actually found it more useful just when the game comes in. You're still tracking and watching. If you want to see something specific live, then you go ahead and go to the game. Like a lot of it's going to be based on the geography and the location. So everybody has a different philosophy. You can look at it both ways. I'd say there might be some times where I do that. There might be some times in the area, we'll go watch a game if you want to see another team or somewhere from around the country that otherwise you wouldn't be able to see. So I would say selectively probably will do that, Mark. Will it be on a regular basis? Not necessarily, but we have people, our college staff is, like we talked about last week, they're doing that right now. Jane Lip's going through that. So we have people that are watching these players, and we have a lot of information that's coming in front of my desk, so I'm able to review it. So when I am watching at my desk, watching the film, have an understanding of who's doing what and what their situation is. Are they Richard junior? Are they a senior? Or what's their status?
I mean, you can't even go about junior, senior anymore, can you? I mean, it's like trying to figure out, is that guy a junior? Well, no, he's in the COVID rules, so he actually is repeating that junior. I mean, trying to figure that out is an absolute...
Well, throw in the transfer portal as well. So a guy going from one team to the next team without having to sit out a year. So
I mean, it's wild. All I know is if you got 3 years, good. I'll look at you. That's it. If his third year, I'll go with you. Saturday or Sunday against Jacksonville, I kept thinking about this as the game was going on, Nick. The physicality of your guys on both fronts. Were you pleased with what you saw on both sides, the physicality you were playing with, or do you want to see that amped up even more?
Yeah, David's talked about this all through the offseason, how we're going to emphasize and how we're going to be built is inside out. So being good in the offensive and defensive line, that's something what we believe in. That's how we're going to try to play. So, a lot of the things, playing with the right pad level, there were times where pad level was a little bit high on both sides of the ball. It really, as the game extends, so you go from playing 25 plays to playing 65, 70 plays. So can you maintain that consistency of your body position, your posture, and your fundamentals? So being able to play strong at the line of scrimmage, being able to run the football, being able to stop the run, being able to cover kicks, those are all signs of physicality of your team and how you measure it. So it's something David has talked about from day one. He's talked to the players about it. He and I have talked about it. So that's something that's important to us, and we're going to continue to. And look, what we're going to try to do each week, whatever we have to do to win, to give us a chance to win the game, that's what we're going to do.
One more relative to that, Nick. Week 1 to week 2, is that the biggest jump in improvement or change during the course of a season, or is that hard to really quantify, and does it vary?
No, it's a good question, Mark. Really, it's probably the early part of the season, from week 1 to week 2, to week 2 to week 3, and by week 4, you should start to settle in a little bit and have an idea. So there should be continual improvement and gradual improvement, and really what's going to happen is you're going to play more games, so more people are going to see you play. So people are going to have more of an understanding of what you're trying to do. So your ability to stay ahead of that will be important. So really, after 4 games, that's a pretty good body of work. And then once you get into the middle of the season, you go back to the last 4 games, and there might be some maybe you want to watch an opponent against a specific team early in the year that has a scheme that's similar to ours. So the first, call it 3 to 4 weeks, is really when you kind of establish that, and then moving forward, it's just about week to week and making an adjustment to who your opponent is.
Nick, you mentioned Carolina earlier. Play them on a Thursday. When do they, being the Thursday opponent, when do they become relevant in the preparation schedule? I know in the summer you guys prepare for them, et cetera, but when do you really start kind of thinking about them? Because if you start thinking about them on Monday, that's almost too late. When do you start kind of thinking about Carolina, the Thursday night opponent coming up?
The advanced scout is just about done with that report. So we saw them play Sunday. We'll see them play again this next Sunday, whoever they play. I don't even know who that is.